No.
We will start our meeting with a public hearing for the ad valorem property tax rate. The SFCC Board of Trustees are meeting tonight, August 24th, in the boardroom at 5:30 for the public hearing on the proposed ad valorem property tax rate for 2023, which will be held at this time following our regular meeting, in which the tax rate of $0.3972 per $100 of assessed valuation will be proposed. Is there anyone here to speak? If not, we will close the public hearing. All right, welcome to our August 24th board meeting. We appreciate having the room full. Glad you could join us because it's air conditioned. Is that why you came? It is a little warm, and we welcome all those who are watching as well via YouTube. So we'll call the meeting to order. We are going to have approval of the agenda, but we do need to add number 16, resolution with a disclosure of conflicts of interest policy. Number 16, I believe it's on your, in your packet. It was kind of one of those things added after it was sent out. So just make sure. So with that, I would entertain the motion to approve the agenda with that added number.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do we have any citizens' comments?
We have no comments.
Thank you. So now, introduction of the new employees. I almost hate to do that because you're going to leave us. I'm afraid you get to meet who you are, but I'll turn this over then to Dr. Bates.
All right, kicking off our introductions today, Health Sciences Dean Allison Broach.
So I am happy to introduce two new employees to Health Sciences tonight, and one of them is on Zoom. We'll start with Kirsten Bright on Zoom. Kirsten is a new instructor, year 2, so RN side of the house at our Eldon campus. And Kirsten is an alumni of State Fair Community College's nursing program and has been out working in community health and doing great things as a nurse. So we're excited to have her back and part of our team. So welcome, Kirsten.
Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Kirsten.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you all. It's been great so far. And yes, just excited to see and watch and help the students grow. So thank you.
Thanks for being here, Kirsten. And then we have Miss Caitlin Milberg. Caitlin is also an alumni of State Fair Community College's, the MHPC OTA program. And Caitlin has joined us to teach in the OTA program and is doing an amazing job. She's been working with that program since summer. And OTA 2012?
I graduated in 2013.
2013. Yep. So she's been out in the workforce doing her thing since then, and we're really excited to have her.
Thank you, guys. It's been a great, well, it's already been a great year so far. So it's been a good week. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Student and Academic Support Services Dean, Dr. Autumn Porter.
She's at Leah, right? So I want to introduce Leah Mullen. Some of you recognize her as Leah Spicer, who was fabulous State Fair student until May of 2020, our SGA president. She left here and completed a bachelor's degree at Mizzou, has been an admissions recruiter at UMKC. The board may recognize we smuggled her on the party bus at MCCA and took her to dinner with us. She left the UMKC booth unattended. And we're excited to have her back on campus as a trio student success coach.
Welcome.
Glad to have you back. All right, Academic Affairs Dean Jim Cunningham.
I have a whole bunch tonight. I don't know if I've ever had this many. I'm just going to start at the end and work my way around. But first is Jake Jenkins, our new ag instructor. She's got about 10 years experience. Stole her from Lamont High School. Next to her is Shannon Kimmelor. He is one of our instructional resource technicians in the tutoring center and also the reigning adjunct of the year at State Fair, so. Bill Silverman, he is our new chemistry instructor. He taught in some high schools in Columbia and retired from the Navy.
And you, the Naval Academy. Don't need to be.
Angela Richard is another instructional resource technician in our tutoring center and a long-term adjunct with us. Been helping kids tutor for a long time. Welcome. Jamie Crivet, new public speaking instructor. So her from Sedalia 200.
Oh,
I like to get that after every once in a while. And there's Chris Holberg, our new digital media communications instructor. He comes to us via Western Missouri Medical Center, where he was in charge of a lot of their marketing productions. And then not here is Kristen Haney, who is a long-term adjunct, a navigator. She left for a year. She's back as our theater director. Welcome to all of you.
welcome to each of you.
James. Dr. Murders had to be off campus today for a funeral. So standing in his place is Division Chair Daniel So.
Thank you, Dr. Bates. So in Division 5, a lot of growth and change this year. So I want to introduce you a few different people. April Godwin joins us as our new Director of Adult Education and Literacy. Next to April is Devin Kaiser, our new CIS Instructor and Program Coordinator. Not able to be with us. He's actually over in Olin Howard right now teaching evening class. William Ivy, and he kind of stepped in on very short notice to become our new Precision Machining Program Coordinator. And then Terrain, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Sounds good.
Building trades.
Yes, I'm going to introduce our new building trades instructor, Josh Zaremba. We're excited to have him on board. Wealth of knowledge in this young man, so he's doing good.
Pleasure to be here and look forward to the school year and all the help I can get. I'm on CTC. Building 300.
All right.
Thank you.
And finally, in our athletic program, I'm proud to introduce Deshaun Portley. Deshaun is the last one introduced, so I said he could give up to 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Deshaun comes to us from Wyoming and where he played and coached. And so we're pleased to have him here.
Welcome.
And that's the did we get everything? All right, that's the introductions. You all are welcome to stick around and see what this is all about, or you can slip out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They're an active.
Thank you all so much. Next, you want us to just say that? We sure can.
Yes, energy sellers, yeah, being an ag.
It was not.
No,
Next on our agenda. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the July 27th, 2023 board meeting as published. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion approved, no objection.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same. All right, now the warrant for July 2023. Keith?
During the month of July 2023, college dispersed $4,466,132 to various accounts shown here. 2.9 in accounts payable, of which 171,821 was on Westport for stock renovation. That's pretty much coming to a close. So those payments will probably one more to pay out the retainers, and that will go away. We can check that project off, which is good. Payroll of $1.8 million, the federal income taxes associated with it. Actually, refunds not much yet. That was next called financial aid being dispersed for the financial aid of 47 pounds of utilities of 62.7. The rest only 4.466 million dispersed.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're ready for institutional reports.
I will approve that.
Oh, I.
I will make a motion to approve.
Moved too fast. All right, thank you. And we have a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. I was anxious for Dr. Porter's report. Oh, she slipped out.
She doesn't realize how fast it goes.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Well, she's been gone for a while. Or, all right, so she's all right.
Well.
You want
do
to do
that.
action?
Property tax.
I can do that.
Oh.
Okay, she is. We're ready for you, Dr. Porter.
No, down the hall, I'm moving faster then, right? One handout to share. Get to that in just a second. You're welcome. Yeah, no problem. Dr. Bates asked me to share with you, kind of where we are on the admissions business process analysis. So let me kind of frame where we started with this. State Fair, and you'll see, has had a kind of continual, persistent, maybe is a better word, decline in applications, the number of students we admit, and enrollment for the last several years. As board members, you've seen that, we've talked about that, that's not anything that is a surprise. When I came back to the college in November, one of the first things that Dr. Bates said to me is that we have scheduled the business process analysis to fix admission. Cool. So I'm not sure where to even start with that whole process. So the BPA, the entire purpose of the BPA was to kind of lay out how do we stop this progressive loss, right? How do we stop the leak? How do we turn things back around? What are those processes and pieces of the college that aren't working? So we brought together, all of us had anecdotal complaints about the time it took to communicate with the college, the time it took for an application, lack of direct mail, lack of communication for students who had applied. We pulled together everyone that had a hand in admission. Not just the admissions department, but anytime someone fills out an application, it affects testing, it affects financial aid, it affects academic advising and enrollment. So we pulled all of the folks that we identified immediately as stakeholders to kind of wrestle with what this means. And in the first 8-hour day with the consultant, we mapped out what it takes for someone to complete an application at State Fair and then become admitted, right? Give them a student ID number. And you'll see across 2 whiteboards, as far as the 6'2" consultant could reach, that's what it looked like from the left all the way to the right for someone to fill out an application and then finally get an ID number. Every one of the triangles on that diagram represents a manual process. No automation whatsoever. Somebody has to, and good luck following the arrows from one to the other and if this, then that. It wasn't until we all laid down kind of what we needed and what it looked like to get our jobs done to move a student forward that we could really see, damn, that's a mess, right? Like we can do better and we have to do better in order to kind of turn that process around. So the admissions process itself, if you will, is actually a conglomerate of multiple different departments, multiple offices, multiple processes. What we found was that there were way too many duplicated efforts. You had 3 or 4 offices going through the same step. Not necessary, make that stop, right? And then we would fuss back and forth with each other. Some of them are here with us this evening. Well, why are you doing that? I don't know. Why are you doing, like, having everyone in the room to understand the steps that we all went through was really eye-opening. We found that there are tons of unintended consequences when steps were missed, when they were rushed, or when they were just done incorrectly. So while we were, and Amy will laugh, Sarah and Bethany are giggling online as well. At one point, when there's a room full of women all shouting over each other, the consultant said, what are we actually talking about? Like, how long does this take? So we pulled data from the time an application was submitted and hits our system until the time they received an ID number. That's the application to admission. Those are the average number of days for the month of July, not an entire academic year, just the month of July. So you could have apples to apples. And then from the time they received the student ID number and they were fully admitted, how long does it take for them to get enrolled? Have a schedule in their hand and ready to go. So you can see, fall of 22, from 21 to 22, the college implemented a CRM, right? A customer relationship management software, which we've owned for years, but we never actually connected to Banner. And it may have been connected quickly, may not have involved all of the stakeholders. So we identified some errors that were causing some of these problems. So that's the dramatic slowdown that you see in July of 22. And there were months during the academic year of that fall 22, there were way worse than July. But just so that you can see kind of apples to apples what we bumped up against. From there, we had to frame out what we were actually intending to do. So our problem statement, after laying all of that out, was that the application process submit to admin was just cumbersome and time consuming, right? Hard stop. It's often hindered by inconsistency and way too many hands moving manual steps forward. And at the end of the day, that jeopardizes everything else that impacts the student and every other department going forward. So we were trying to reduce the time and find a way that we could implement additional improvements and promote some sort of continuous and sustained growth. That sounds super easy, right? So that was November, right? We're now 9-10 months into progress. What we have tackled so far, we clearly identified that technology can't fix us, right? We purchased slates, we purchased a CRM. Technology can only do what you ask it to do. Our policies and our processes were antiquated. And you remember, we brought part of that to you to change in language. But originally we said we were an open enrollment institution. No, right? We were open admission. And we talked a little bit about what that looked like when we brought that policy forward earlier this year. So we had to really unmarry the notion of admissions and enrollment. Those are two separate things, right? So there were pieces of the process that we were forcing students to do before we ever let them finish the application and be admitted that they didn't really need till they enrolled in class. I don't care what your ACT score is to give you an ID number. I do need to know what that means before you can sign up for math. So we had to kind of separate out what's admissions, what's enrollment. And again, in a room full of many hours together and being frank, we sat down with our policy and our regulations and decided if the Department of Education, Federal Student Aid, or Jesus himself didn't dictate it, we weren't going to do it anymore. So we had to really take apart all of the steps and the expectations that we had placed on students previously and start from scratch in certain places. We identified that there's a lot of things a student can do once they finally get the ID number. But then we had to slow down. Maybe that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. They don't need all the keys to the kingdom, but they need to have access to certain things. They need to be able to sign up for housing. They need to be able to sign up for scholarships. They need to be able to see their financial aid calculation. They might not need to sit in a navigator office just yet, right? So we kind of had to separate out kind of what those things look like. We came to the conclusion that language matters. So we went back and scratched a number of the automated communications that were coming out of that CRM, simplified that language, narrowed it down to something someone could read on their phone quickly, and we're very clear about what we wanted people to do the next step. And then the next step, instead of letting them sit from fire hydrant and tell them everything up front. No, just, one step at a time was kind of the approach that we took. And there are a dozen or more of those automated messages. So testing had to correct theirs, financial aid needed to tweak theirs, housing needed to tweak theirs. The navigators have a series of them that come forward. So make sure that all of that language is kind of rolled in together and we're all singing from the same hymnal. In May, once we began the contract with EAB for their strategic services, one of the things that they offered in that is a virtual enrollment audit. So they would apply, find out what they need to do. They would visit our website for the very first time and try to apply as a student, right? And then they map out what all of those steps look like, how long it took, and it's a finite period of time. They get 10 business days to run through the audit and see how far they can get, right? And our consultant was funny because she said, I just want to warn you, we're going to identify your pain points. And we're like, girl, we know where the pain points. Like, we will give you a t-shirt and a map so you can find our pain points. We've been doing this for months. And what you have in front of you is one page from their report. They were incredibly complimentary of the application, which the rest of us were ready to set on fire, just be done with at one point. But they also loved the communication that came from the application. They were very complimentary of the admissions piece of the website. They were incredibly complimentary of the financial aid website. They gave us a number of suggestions of things that we can still improve on, and they gave us examples of other community colleges who are killing it. So we're in the process of kind of figuring out what we can steal, what's usable, what's not. What happened when the end of their 10 business days, they ran into needing a placement score, which we brought that conversation to the board as well, right? Is placement absolutely necessary? Well, we're now implemented since that period of time. You know, Amy and several of the folks on the gen ed side of the house have pushed the idea of guided self-placement forward as a result, right? That's the point at which they stopped. They never got a chance to meet their navigator. They never got a chance to enroll during that audit. The good news is, because of the contract we have with them, we're going to repeat this process over the next 2 years during the month of May, so that we can, again, apples to apples, kind of measure what that progress looks like. So this is where we landed, and I have a couple of numbers. If you have a pen in front of you, we updated this. The table just reflects what I sent to Lisa. So again, looking at only the month of July, the time from an application to admission went from 21 days to just under 9. Those are calendar days, not business days. And this includes everyone who, ambitious little babies that get in and fill it out right away, to the guy that forgot to put the wrong year, or they put their mom's date of birth, or they didn't hit submit. So from the time it starts till it ends, that's where that clock started. And then from admission to enrollment for the month of July, the average new student waited about 7.5 days to get enrolled. Typically, we monitored all summer long. Another one of those measures that didn't really matter, that we didn't pay a lot of close attention to before, is the number of days you had to wait for availability with a navigator. So on average, throughout the summer, it's about 1.5 days wait to see a navigator. So by the time you got your information, you logged in, you got everything set up, you requested your appointment, that's about right. Right? We would like to tighten that up a little bit more, but I am tickled with 7 days as opposed to where we've been. For new students only, so this doesn't count all enrollment. These are just brand new students, first time to the institution. For fall 23, we ended the month of July with 4,359 applications. So we've now gotten back up to the same threshold we were at in 2019.
So then we're going
4,359. Of those that were fully admitted and ready to enroll, it was 2,670. Again, we're back up. We're back up where we needed to be. And then the enrolled number for brand new students was 2,295. So we have some measurable progress that we have been tickled. And this group meets every 60 to 90 days. And we usually start the agenda with what's working, what's not. Right? And we spend as much time kind of celebrating each other as digging into what we have to do next. The work that still has to be done at this point, we know that there were missteps in how the CRM was constructed that has caused us problems. As a result, we sent Bethany and Dara to the Slate conference, and we've implemented a Slate team. I think when the product was originally purchased, there was a statement that they would never have a full-time person to manage Slate. We got 3 of them now, right? So like, we know better afterwards. It's not their only job, but there are pieces of that they have to monitor and keep rolling on a regular basis. If someone's application gets stuck in the process, it can hose up everyone else in the batch. So we have 3 people now, one person whose primary responsibility is to manage admissions, and then Bethany and Dara are keeping things running for us in the background. Technology, again, obviously has its limitations. There are still some hiccups about how we choose to operate that technology can't fix. So our next BPA meeting is in September. We're going to wrestle with those things. Unfortunately, as much as we can push automation through, it's a lot like unicorns and Bigfoot. Can't happen, right? Those are being fully automated is not a thing that's going to happen. There are some professional judgment that has to happen along the way. So there will always be human hands in this process. And then we're learning as we go that there is a tremendous amount of cross-departmental dependency on student records. One of the things that we have to wrestle with at the end of September are high school transcripts. In this process, we've all kind of stared at each other and thought, well, I thought you were doing that. No, we thought you were doing that. No, that department totally does that. No one has a real good handle on what that looks like. And that will have an impact on improving things and maybe why we're stuck in places right now. The last thing I wanted to share with you, this, what happens next, right? So we're continuing to measure those improvements. We get a snapshot at the end of every month, and we all sit down and talk about it every couple of months. We are keeping very detailed notes on things that are difficult, and trying to paint a picture of what it should look like. I promised them queso and margaritas in November, right? We'll look at the data, but then we're going to enjoy the data when it's all said and done. Yeah. And then we will generate a final report, and probably at that point, we're ready to shift the work onto other parts of the college. Because we only dealt with admissions from the time someone filled out an application until they were ready to enroll. The same process probably needs to be repeated with enrollment management from the time they enroll until they graduate, right? And then the backside of it, the kind of pre-admission, the recruitment process needs work and needs to be built out correctly in that CRM. And that's going to take a lot of people involved in that. And we're probably going to take a real hard look at the tool that we have and whether or not there are others that will better meet our needs. This is the list of the admissions BPA team, all of the people that have been a part of this process since November. I will tell you that change takes courage. And you are looking at a list of people that spent time taking apart years and years and years of the way things have always been. And that's hard. That's incredibly hard. They are competent, they are talented, they are fierce, they are relentless. And above everything else, the one thing I'm most proud of is they trusted each other every step of the way. None of this would have happened if there was constant conflict that they couldn't defer to one another. So I'm just as proud of the work that's done as I am any of the outcomes. So there you go.
Do you want to introduce the ones that are here?
I can.
And
Well, we'll give you a couple of numbers. What do you got?
including what
15,
happened here.
right? Well,
So
you got
that's Bethany and Dara
Dara up there, right?
are
Well, you've got a pen handy. Let's talk about the actual enrollment numbers today, right? So as of today, these are the numbers that would have been processed last night at midnight. We are unduplicated head counts is up 6.6% compared to the same day last year. Credit hours is up 5.1% to the same day last year. And then as of last Friday, that's the measuring point. We just kind of leave it on Fridays. Fall to fall retention is at 64%, which is a number we haven't seen in a really long time. Bethany, Dara, Jill Steffen, Amy Schrader, Mark, most of Mark's team, right, when we pull him out of places. But this is a group of 12 to 15 deep that have been up to our eyeballs in it for 10 months.
plus.
Anything you two want to add?
I am so very proud of this team. Dr. Porter said that when she got here, this is her first thing that was dumped on her. And look at the amazing progress that's made. And I think it's one thing of many that illustrates Dr. Porter's great leadership. And then the team together and the way they worked and the really tough decisions that they made and progress that they made is so very amazing. And I want to recognize Dara and Bethany because they're directors of their campuses, right? And we think about them in terms of Boonville and of Clinton. But these two were actually rolling applications for the whole college when we didn't have anybody else roll applications. And so it's an example of this extended campus folks doing things for the team, not just for their site. So they bring that additional value added to our team. And that's staying true as reverse. People at other sites do things for extended campus that we're a team. So I'm really, really proud of that. And I'm also proud of the process that they use, identifying the problem, develop solutions, assess, and revise. And so they've been going through that problem-solving process, and it just great success. So good job to all of
I
you.
didn't
Thank you
ask
very
the
much.
question. Sorry about that.
Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I have one real quick. Dr. Porter, you've always talked about the number of days it takes and the vast improvement obviously is there. What is this? Like, if you add those two numbers together, it's 16 days from application to enrollment, like that seems pretty quick. Like, what is the goal? Like, is there a goal? Is there an average? Like,
I think, well, there's not necessarily an average, because not everybody measures that, right? But you will hear, the application to admission number is something that admissions people will throw around at their conferences that they brag about. Somewhere under 48 hours, there's some people who can flip those around pretty quickly. We still have some things that we have to clarify, right? And we serve a different population, right? And we have, 8 different applications. It's not just one, right? So sometimes it's CTC students, sometimes it's dual credit, sometimes it's international applications are rolled into that average as well. If we would like to see it come down to less than a week, right? I think goal, at one point, I don't know who wrote it down. I think it was the consultant. None of us said that out loud. Someone's like, we wanted 4 hours. That's cuckoo pants, right? That is not a thing, like realistically, not a thing that can happen. We would like to see it come down to under a week. And there have been times during the year, different months, a lot of that has to do with volume,
right,
right? Because it's an average,
because
right?
these numbers are high volume, right?
High volume.
Right.
If you go back and look at March, it was 2 days, right? Well, not a ton of people applying in March, right? Because they can't really do anything, especially for the fall term. Yeah, we would like to pull that down under a week on a pretty consistent basis.
Close.
Close. Not everybody measures that. I don't know anybody that measures that the way that we do. OTC can give you kind of a spitball for theirs, and theirs is 2 or 3 days, right? But again, it's that once you have a student ID number, what do you have access to? What do we allow you to do from that point forward? And that's one of the pieces that EAB suggested. You know, you need to give them a little bit more access once they have an ID number, because that would tighten up that average days to enrollment. But there are some things that we need to be able to make. You have the highest rated nursing program in the state of Missouri. That's not open for everybody. There's a conversation we need to have about how you behave, how you performed in high school biology. Some of those things have to slow down in order for us to advise correctly.
Thank you.
No problem.
So everything you've done, the big chart we had streamlined, correct?
More streamlined. It's still changing. It's still changing.
It might not be less streamlined.
No, it is, yeah, it is much more streamlined.
So I would assume you'd have put it up there if you had the streamlined version, but.
We haven't drawn one out because we're still making adjustments as we go. That's one of the things that we have to document. We want to have done and preserve once we're at the finish. So November, when we generate a final report, we can tell you what that looks like.
So if it were streamlined, which it is obviously, then in turn, the physical hands-on, theoretically, that would free hands-on,
Should, right,
right? I mean, that. becomes-
right, should, yeah.
Just go with common sense. here.
Right.
So is there another angle, another entity, another place that those who have been all over the chart is now streamlining to this?
It would be wonderful to free up, right, some of the, especially at the time that the range campus folks.
And I didn't know if you're too early in that process.
We may need to look at a different tool, right? We've got the reins around Slate and we're driving it now instead of the other way around. But there are other products that might play a little nicer with Banner than Slate does. There may be some kind of intuitive pieces that we don't have. For instance, if someone doesn't capitalize their last name, or if they use a state abbreviation rather than the drop down menu, they put a period in their telephone number instead of hyphens, someone has to clean that up so that it feeds into Banner correctly. Right, so there may be some other pieces that we just don't use, we don't have access to, that would make that a little easier.
So the process you're working on It's not even. You're just a work in progress.
Yeah.
And in the point, if there would be any point to be determining what might be useful for the knowledge and possibly how to redirect some of our resources.
Yes, right, what can make it, if there's any way to make it any more streamlined, what would that look like?
Good.
No problem.
Great work.
Great.
Thank you.
To the whole team, to the whole
Student,
team
yeah,
on
to
that,
the
yeah.
whole team. Students first is always what we hear, and this exemplifies that. Thank you. Okay, so we are now ready for ad valorem property tax. Keith?
So it's that time of year again, when the ad valorem property tax rate for this coming fiscal year. We're going to have a maximum, figure that out. It is recommended Board of Trustees set the ad valorem property tax rate for 2023 at permissible amount of $0.3972, $100 assessed valuation. Vice President of Finance Administration is directed to notify each of the county clerks of this resolution. This rate of 0.3972 is unchanged from last year.
Motion to approve.
Are you a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Please stay there. We're gonna do Clinton Practical Nursing Program expansion.
So you're gonna have two motions to be seen, and I can do this yet, but they both pertain to the expansion of the nursing program in Clinton. One of them will be for you to approve the program expansion. The other will be then for you to start funding it this year. Before you do that, you need to be fully informed of what this means, what we're doing, why we're doing it. So I'm going to let Allison and Terry get up and explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what the some of the cases are. So they will vote.
Thank you. So we heard in June that from some community members that Clinton Tech was potentially going to be closing their program. Clinton Tech is part of the Clinton High School, and they have a practical nursing program. So we reached out and asked for a meeting with the leadership there at the school district. That was held at the end of June. Begin that discussion. It was communicated at that time that they did in fact have a plan to close their practical program. So I'm going to give you some history as to the Clinton Tech program and what we currently offer at State Fair Community College. I'm going to have Tara come up and talk to you about the students and the budget projection, and then some of the next steps that will need to happen for this to occur. So Clinton Tech. So like I said, currently part of the Clinton School District. They have an adult education practical nursing program. As far as we know, that's the only adult education program that they offer there. So in the past, their enrollment has been around 22 students a year for the last 9 years in that program. A significant portion of the State Fair Community College's year 2 nursing program at Clinton have come from the Clinton Tech program. Okay, so we 30 to 50% of the students that we get for year 2 at Clinton come from Clinton Tech. They've had great pass rates on NCLEX for their LPN, their graduates, over 90% for the last several years. They currently have 2 full-time employees that function as like the program director and faculty for that program at Clinton Tech. Both of those individuals have greater than 5 years in their positions, and their contracts end in December. We're hoping to transition those individuals over to State Fair Community College at the end of their contract. So the differences from a student perspective between the Clinton Tech PN program and the State Fair Community College PN program, the Clinton Tech program doesn't require any prereqs. Okay, so they don't have State Fair Community College. We have 3 prereqs: anatomy, English comp, and intermediate algebra required. Okay, so they would not expect to have prereqs going into Clinton Tech. They're embedded in their program. The program cost is also a significant difference. The current cost at Clinton Tech is around $10,000 a year. Right now, the current cost at State Fair Community College is $17,800 for the 3 semesters. One other significant difference from the student perspective is the start date. So Clinton Tech's program was a January to December. So they would apply in the fall, start in January, finish in December. We would propose that we would start the program in August at State Fair Community College. Not only would that give them the spring semester, if we were to bring, the students over to State Fair to complete their prereqs, but also our year 2 program is set up as an August start. So it would allow students going from year 1 to year 2, first from State Fair Community College, to just seamlessly go right into that program. Our current year 2 program at Clinton campus, if you recall back in 2018 or so, when that program was established, the decision was to just take year 2 because Clinton Tech already had the PN program and we didn't want to compete with them. So we just started that year 2 program at Clinton campus in 2019. Right now, there are 21 students enrolled. They're allowed 25. The State Board of Nursing allows up to 25 max for that cohort. There's 21 students enrolled in fall. That's the highest we've had at Clinton yet. So that's great news. Statistically, 90+% of State Fair Community College PN completers go to the year 2 program. Okay, so a really high percentage of students move straight from year 1 to year 2. Students who transition from our PN program to our ADN program, the year 2 program, they do statistically perform better in the classroom than students who transition from another PN program. So we accept students in year 2, regardless of where they went to LPN school, but if they went to they're homegrown, we've had them in our PN program, they perform better in the year 2 program. Okay. And we do believe that if we do not take this program and transition over to State Fair Community College, it's going to be detrimental to our year 2 program. We won't have the feeders that will come in from Clinton Tech. So I'm going to have Tara come up and talk to you about students, budget, and next week. And no, we did not plan this outfit.
Night that we should plan our outfit.
We did. We talked about it.
But we didn't.
We were talking about wearing lab coats and nurse hats. And then we show up today and we're
Family photo worthy.
Right, family portrait right there.
So in Clinton Tech School right now, they are accepting applications for their January start. And again, like Allison indicated, they're not going to start a January program. They currently have a total of 6 students that have applied to their program. They completed the full application process. However, there's an additional 26 students that have requested an application. So they've mailed the application to them. And those applications are not due until September 29th. So we're not sure yet how many of those 26 applications will actually be turned in. We do have a budget that is in your packet that's kind of outlined what it would look like if we had 25 students that were admitted. That's the number that we are recommending that we ask the State Board of Nursing for. What would it look like if we had enrollment of 25? What would it look like if we had an enrollment of 20? And then what would it look like if we had 15 students? So with the 25 students, we anticipate a revenue of a little less than $350,000 a year. If we do the 80% capacity of 20 students admitted, $276,000 a year of revenue with tuition and fees. It's important to note with that tuition and fees, I only calculated in what that would be for nursing courses. It didn't count general education courses that are built in our program, nor did I count those 3 prerequisites that Allison spoke of. So that would be additional revenue of tuition and fees. And of course, I used the Missouri out of district tuition rate to calculate that. Okay. Looking at personnel costs, we would anticipate 2 employees there. Hopefully the 2 that are currently Clinton Tech employees would be interested in moving over to State Fair employees. And so we figured $175,000 annually for their salary and benefits. Additionally, we thought the annual operating expenses for this program would be about $21,750. And so with those numbers, if we looked at the 25 full cohort, our net contribution would be a little under $150,000 a year. If we look at the 80% capacity, about $80,000 of a net contribution a year. So as Keith alluded to in the agenda items that we'll be looking at, we are asking for $300,000 in capital investments for one-time expenditures. Those expenditures would be for technology needs, as well as a little bit of facility requirements that we need. Currently in Clinton, there is not a dedicated lab space with the hospital beds and the simulators and the task trainers and those types of things. Because our year 2 program, the RN program, isn't really focused on task type things. When they attended their PN education, that's where they got that experience. And so with the PN program, we're going to need a full lab. Anytime that those second year students are doing simulation or lab type of items, they have either come to main campus to do that, or we have been able to use Clinton Tech's simulator or Golden Valley Memorial Hospital simulator. With the large number of students and the frequency of use, we will need our own lab space. As you probably recall, we have done a change of sponsorship for 2 other technical schools in the past, Boonville and Eldon. When we changed the sponsorship for those 2 programs, we stayed in their space. So we were at Boonville High School, Eldon High School, and so we assumed all of their equipment, all of those things with that change of sponsorship. This is different in that we would not be at Clinton Tech. We would be at SFCC, the Truman Building. And Clinton has indicated that they have intent to use all of the equipment at that tech pool for other programs such as a patient care tech and some phlebotomy courses. So they have full intention of using that. So they're not willing to provide us any of that. So we really would be starting with square one with buying those things. We do have an additional $80,000 in lab requirements that we are also requesting. We have space at Clinton SFCC location already kind of picked out of what will work for classroom space, what will work for lab space. Renovation at that space, we anticipate will be very minimal. We need more electrical outlets in the area that we have picked out for the lab. We also will need to have our privacy curtains secured to the ceiling to go around our patient bed bays. But renovation is projected to be very minimal for that space there. Other things to purchase: hospital beds, simulators, AV equipment, task trainers. But that's where the money as well as salaries that we're asking for. This was definitely a surprise to us, didn't see this coming. And so for our fiscal year 24 budget, it is not budgeted in there for these additional expenses. So next steps. First of all, obviously, is this evening approval from the Board of Trustees to do the change of sponsorship. Then we would need to submit to the Missouri State Board of Nursing the request for change of sponsorship. They are actually aware that these conversations are happening and really happy to hear that that program may not be dissolving because the state, the community does need that. Then assuming the State Board of Nursing would approve that change of sponsorship, we also will then be, next step will be communicating to those prospective students that have already inquired with Clinton Tech. The 6 that have applied and the 27 that have applications, Clinton Tech has agreed to share the contact information. Clinton Tech employees and SFCC employees would together be planning that communication to those potential students. And then obviously we'll do additional marketing in that area to pull our application pool in. We also have begun some conversation with some potential stakeholders to assist with the funding of this startup. And so continued conversations with them would also be occurring. Any questions that you might have?
On the note of conversations, keep saying hopefully the 2
teachers will come on board, but those conversations currently happening with them. And then what, if we're assuming there's not gonna be any issues with state board approval, so what are our requirements with the state board?
The lab space is definitely a requirement. Clinical sites have to communicate that they have space and willingness and availability. Golden Valley, they're absolutely on board with this. I
Staffing.
don't
Classroom
anticipate.
Staffing.
The personnel.
Is there a potential source of fund for the capital equipment and renovation and other?
So we do have some not quite 100% secure, but on the way to being funding sources for this. We have some funds in the foundation as well that we could use for backup if our funds through these community stakeholders do not pan out. So
How does it work out? You said that their dates, they were doing January through December or whatever, and ours is different. So how does that work? How do you get things rolling?
So their students typically were admitted in January and they graduated in December. And the students that wanted to then move on to RN, they would have a semester off previously. So they would be off from the time they graduated in December until they started state fair in August. And so by moving this to in August, it eliminates that delay. They can go straight from year one, straight to year two. The delay also gives these applicants that were thinking they were going to Clinton CTC that have potentially no prerequisites, likely no prerequisites already, that opportunity to take those in spring to then be set up to be ready for a fall admission. So I think those things are to the benefit of those students to delay what they expected their admission to be in terms of starting a program in January. And knowing that we have, such a large volume of Clinton students that do choose to come to State Fair for a second year, eventually they were going to take those prerequisites anyways. And so, it's like, where do they take them? We take them before we start, or do we take them between?
we plan to use some of the funding from community stakeholders to help incentivize the students that were planning to go to Clinton Tech to come to State Fair by possibly helping them with their prereq courses that they didn't have planned in their budget for spring.
We recognize 10,000 versus almost 18,000 is a big difference. The big reason that Clinton Tech has communicated that they are no longer able to stay in their program. The salaries is what has gotten them. They had 3 instructors. And because of financial constraints, Clinton Tech moved one of those instructors into another program. So they just have 2 providing that instruction. They just financially can't do that.
Do their students not use A+ before either? Whereas if it's under us, then they could.
They could absolutely use A+.
So that will be good, especially for people, so from, next year's senior class. So then we have one in Warsaw who had to wait, she graduated in May, had to wait till January. She was burning daylight there, but she could have been, especially if they took A class.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So we gotta wait a year. I mean, we have to, there's no story, but.
Open to high school students.
Is what open high school students,
Our
our
LPN
nursing program,
Our program through our LPN program.
our LPN program is not
Okay.
open to high school students.
And neither is theirs.
And neither is
Theirs,
theirs.
oh, I'm just, okay.
Nope.
So what would be worst case scenario? Just what would be the worst thing that happened? We fully invest, and what would it be?
So I think worst case scenario would be not doing it. I think the long-term impact to State Fair community. college- Okay, so that was, so if we were to invest at this point, and approve, the worst case scenario is that the funding sources that we are working on don't come through and it ends up having to come out of SFCC's operations. But, so
No
that
students,
to
no
me-
student applicants, no students to
that would
apply.
be-
That could be an issue. Clinton year 2 took a while to get up and moving and up and going. And we're at 21 students this fall. That's amazing. It's wonderful. So number of applicants could be.
So that's how you measure success, is the number of applicants you're able to draw in addition to what's already there with the tech program. I'm assuming you're looking to bring in others other than just the
Yeah,
few.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so that would be the marketing aspect and all those things.
Sure.
And after we reach, you're projecting we're reaching the numbers, that'll at least be a wash for the expenditures, right?
And that just includes the nursing credits, not any of the gen ed, not any of the prereqs, which are gonna see an increase in all of that as well with taking that on. And of course, we've been working with Dara on what that could look like on Clinton campus, because I mean, that means there's gonna be more students needing anatomy, more students needing all the things. And so, you know, there's more benefit than just the funds coming in from the nursing credit.
Okay, second question. The two that are there, that may be, what is your prognosis regarding them staying on versus what would be the backup plan for drawing them to? I mean, they have some serious responsibilities there because you two are gonna be the bosses. You're here. So other than burning up the highway, there's somebody down there that has to take on that on-site responsibility.
Well, we have a year 2 program there already, so we have the coordinator and instructor there for year 2. We have, you know, health sciences is pretty heavy at Clinton right now with surge tech and medical assisting, and I think we're good there. We've got office spaces now.
So it's just two that may leave, may not leave.
Yeah, we're not sure yet what the plan will be there. Now, if they do not transition over, we'll have to get right on recruiting, because it's really difficult to recruit nurses from the bedside right now. And we're having issues just filling our spots here on Sedalia campus. So,
Is Golden Valley, are they still somewhat in a partnership?
Absolutely.
oh yeah, they're,
So in turn, kind of wrong to steal their people, what would it be?
I think they have,
I mean, how would they view it?
I think, unlike some of the clinical partners, I think they see the long-term benefit of losing an employee, of what it creates in terms of graduates. I think they see that. I feel like they see that. They are
They're looking down the road.
absolutely, they were our very first clinical partner that created an affiliate agreement with us, where they provided a staff nurse to do clinical instruction at their hospital. And we paid them for that amount. And that staff nurse was making more money than we paid them, and they covered the difference. They were the very first clinical partner that stepped up to that table and did that. And that was
over
10 years ago. I mean,
yeah, they've been really good.
So you have a
they're great
good track record to base what you're saying off of. It boils down to.
partners.
So it's not that much of an, oh my gosh, we made this huge calculated risk. That would definitely, the calculation would be on the positive, more so than the 50-50 or.
it will
That's-
definitely
that's what-
impact them greatly if this program doesn't continue. And I think that they know that, so I think they're willing to step up to do what they can to help us.
So they would be one of the community partnership type people or entities.
Yes, they're in on the meetings that we're having with the community partners for the funding.
Cool.
How long does it stay approved?
Well, it will have to go to the nursing state board educator department first, their committee first, and then it'll go to the large state board of nursing, and they meet quarterly is how often their meetings are. So their next quarterly meeting, I would assume it would be on the agenda.
When is that? I mean, we haven't, I'm just.
I think it's an
trying to
October,
October, I
figure out
think
when
we
we
probably
usually
do.
get off the ground fall of 24, so we have 1 year,
right?
but.
Yeah.
we really can't do
October of
anything
this year.
until they-
I think is their next,
Oh, okay.
in their next meeting. Yeah, the paperwork is done. I need to put a date and hit enter.
They mentioned that we've done this would be the 3rd time we've taken sponsorship of the CTC program. We have learned lessons in that process. One of the lessons we learned is in Boonville, we didn't give time for the students to pick up prerequisites, and there was a lot of struggle with getting students qualified for the program and in position to be successful in the program. So this year is a really good thing, and we've learned that the hard way in the past.
Allison, I'm sorry. You were talking about the numbers that they had from the 10 program. I thought you said it's lower than what we have as far as legislative awards. Is that right?
99, over 90%, on NCLEX. Yes, we've had 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's
So,
what,
I mean,
that's what gets us the claim to fame to being number one in the state. So I didn't know if that would be,
theirs are still really good. I mean, they're well above the national average.
what would you think needs to be done differently to get them closer to where we're at here on this campus and the other campuses?
Well, we will not go off of Clinton Tech's curriculum. That will be our curriculum. That'll be the same as the piano curriculum at every other campus we have. Yep. Good question.
Jill, did you have something? to say?
No, I was just, you're going to mention that our applications might be changing too. We're looking at requirements and criteria for admission, so that might help some more students get into our program. That has had some.
We are considering a change, and currently we require a 2.5 overall GPA and a 2.75 prerequisite and required Gen Ed. We are considering eliminating GPA requirements entirely. There is no correlation as we look at the data with overall GPA and prediction for success. And looking at our prerequisites and the general ed there, we're looking at letter grades instead of GPA. So continuing to require a B or higher on sciences and a C or higher on the other ones. Our data supports that. So for some students, the overall and the prerequisite GPA will get them a ding because maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they went to college and they, majored in their fraternity or their sorority and didn't do so great, and it pulled down that GPA. And we have found that, those students can be strong students and great nurses. I'm really proud of that, by the way.
That just for the
Good job.
LPN program, or
Both RN and LPN both have the exact same.
it's gonna be new this year?
We're working through it, getting the approvals.
And space, you said that there would be space. No other programs would suffer because of the space you would be taking.
Correct.
Dara will have to do some adjustment of her schedule in the future, where she holds classes and things, but no, she's really excited about it. Thinks she won't have any problem accommodating.
The lab space would also benefit the other health science programs there. In a more equipped space that, medical assistants can use.
Anything else?
2 questions. What was the contribution if you did run to 25 students again? You rattled up 150,000. Is that number accurate?
149.
So are you?
If you, right now you gave us the data in the board packet that if we were 80%, I'm asking if we were at 100%, what would that be?
That would be, under the 25 column, if you're one of the 25, 149,000 would be our net.
Just the tech.
Huh?
You find that in your report pack, you got all 3 of them.
And again, not considering gen ed and, prereqs.
No, it's not one alone, that's fine.
Oh,
Okay, what is it? I have the numbers memorized.
You're good.
It's important to the community, it's important to the profession. And we do a darn good job, and we can continue to do that. With that,
You said that, was that Tara? Did you say that?
I sure did.
You did a great job. You did a darn good job, 100%. I mean, we're rock.
We are not only number 1 in the state of Missouri, we are number 2 in the Midwest. And that's against over 600 practical.
I would upgrade that.
Yeah. We have-
Just, you said you had 2 questions. Do you have another?
No, I think I'm good enough.
Okay.
I'm ready to hear Keith's voice.
Well, I do want to compliment the group. These folks have done a fantastic job working
Yeah.
through this, and really it's been a team initiative, so Keith has helped with the pro forma. Dr. Murders has been involved, Dara and folks in the Clinton community have helped with this, so it's been a true team. And, you know, ELT put them through the hoops a little bit to make sure the proposal was the right thing. And so I appreciate the team's work.
Clinton Tech would have liked this to happen, July 1. They called, we had our meeting in mid-June and they wanted to see if we could make it happen by July 1.
I said at one point, you showed ELT the number of students that Clinton Tech has had in ELT from like the last several years. Do you have that? That might help them to know what they've actually put through their program.
I don't know that I,
Average of 22 admitted over the last 9 years,
Okay.
average.
the left-hand column, the furthest left is how many were admitted, and then the next column is how many graduated, and then their NCLEX pass rate. I do think I have enough copies, for, I mean, you two have to share, but can you do that?
No.
They just practice.
Well, Dr. Bates is seeing it, so you don't.
Okay, I don't hear.
Okay. Yes, a lot of research gone into this. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So how many were entered in, so for 23, how many enrolled? Is it?
So 23 started and they're down to 17 currently.
You guys will graduate in December.
So, okay, so 17
Check
out
to graduate.
of the 21 that enrolled or graduated.
Any other questions?
This is very interesting work, ladies.
Only Keith would have wore green.
Right?
Yeah, you would have seen the team effort.
Now it's sporting, you know, red, white, and blue. It's Clinton green. Is Clinton green one chance? No. No, this is a good try. Here we go. So first one, 9, expansion of the Clinton practical nursing program. It's recommended the Board of Trustees approve the expansion of the practical nursing program to include a cohort of the SFCC Clinton location starting in fall of 2024. This program will serve 25 LPN students with 20 students, 80% capacity, and perform financials are as follows. You can read them and learn about them. I also noted in your packet that 15 was basically break even, and that doesn't count all the other, credits that they mentioned they're getting. Now, let's go to the second part of this. To make this expansion possible, it's also recommended the board approve the addition of 2 faculty positions. A Clinton level 1 coordinator / nursing instructor, which is 12-month faculty, and a Clinton nursing instructor, another 12-month faculty. It's also recommended the board approve a capital investment budget for advanced technologies, so Lucina patient simulator, pediatric simulator, and AV equipment for learning space, not to exceed $300,000. The program expansion is approved. These capital investments will be brought to the board individually to the board for approval. Any capital investments above $300,000 will require additional board approval. As you heard, that the capital fund sources are a combination of SFCC Foundation funds, community funding sources, and then if necessary, one would be general fund reserves. You can look at and you make those decisions. That's what we're going to do. So that's number 9.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay,
So now we're going to look at this year to get ready for that, which is number 10, the Clinton Practical Nursing Program preparation. In order to begin the SFC Clinton Practical Nursing cohort in fall 2024, it is recommended the Board of Trustees to approve the addition of $155,000 addendum to the FY24 general fund budget. This budget addition includes the 2 previously approved positions you just did to begin January 2nd of 2024, which is $75,000 of that. And then also the purchase of necessary laboratory furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the tables, the galls, the things that are not capital expenditures. That's the other $80,000. The source of these additional funds is the same as we mentioned before, the combination of SFCC Foundation funds, so the community funding sources for it. Those don't come through the general fund reserve. Motion to approve.
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. He recycles more utility vehicle.
I'm gonna pass you out another handout that didn't have when we got this, because I want you to see what they're buying with this. This is a cool little guys for 80,000 needs to be.
Hmm,
Those are good.
I'm sure that's.
So, the next item on the agenda, number 10, you recall last month, we approved the Recycles More grant, which was in the neighborhood of $80,000. This is the vehicle that they are going to purchase with that, so they can recycle the ferrous materials that are required of this and recycling those things on our campus. And we also use it for other things. So it's recommended the board of trustees accept the bid for one utility vehicle, think about that, with hydraulic loader, which meets the requirements of the Recycles More grant, in the amount of $78,880.55 from Bobcat of Columbia Low. Two bids were received in the packet. The utility vehicle will be used to help recycle ferrous and non-ferrous metals from the SSCC's machining and welding labs. Funding is 85% the Recycles More grant, and then 15% the SSCC operating budget.
Motion to approve, if I can drop it.
See, can you put that in there, Lisa? Second, okay, discussion, questions?
Yes, so Keith, last month we did approve the grant for a total of $79,412 with our 15% match. So what do we anticipate that the shipping containers and the additional accessories we approved the grant to cost us? Since there doesn't seem to be a whole lot left over. Did we anticipate the utility vehicle being the bulk of?
This is making the total, but I do not have the answer to what you're asking me. My understanding and talking to them is that the recycling programs many of them will be given to us, and keeps them in, back and forth, that it's a kind of part of the deal, but I can confirm that.
No, I'm just curious. I know we, with our match, it was one number and then it was about $532 for
Yes.
shipping containers, batteries.
Yeah, there's not much
containers.
left over,
Right. Okay. Just want to clarify.
but I will find out.
What's the timeframe on it arriving?
My understanding is like, I don't have that. There was no indication of a long delay. Can I ask them? But I don't know. Yeah. While you're having the president's report, I'll answer the question for if you want to wait a minute.
I'm good.
Most transportation items are taken months, if not years to arrive.
That's
So
a
there's no-
I will say the amount of Bobcat equipment sitting at the fairground the last 10 days, I'm sure they have one still.
What did it, we didn't have this. Well, there's no backup plan for that. They're saying that we need this to qualify for the.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things, I mean, there's probably other manufacturers that would have one
So we
similar.
only had two bids.
Right, but I mean, yes, you're right, we would have to go, we have a period of time probably for the grant, we probably have to wait to buy one or seek one out. You're right, we have to have one that meets a certain criteria that can handle the non-ferrous materials, ferrous and non-ferrous materials. I was looking at this, looking on, I guess I should look in the packet at the grant and the actual bid. I don't know if all they had a delivery date.
I did not see one, Keith, in the bid from either Bobcat or the,
So they're both Bobcats, just two different places. Columbia gave us a better deal than the guys the other one did. But while this is going on, I will do a couple of texts and see if I can find the answers to that, both those questions.
I mean, if one's gonna be here in 3 months, this is gonna be here in a year.
well, but also you're looking, I mean, you're talking almost
This is.
$20,000 difference in bids,
It's a
like.
significant difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the exact same.
So I mean, I think if you had to wait another month. it's worth it.
I mean, we've waited this long to recycle right now.
You're exactly right. That's all the questions I had. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, next was the board 360 evaluation. So as you know, just as a review, you know, that we were seeking input into that performance from the faculty and the staff and the community. And we do that every other year in the odd year. The 2023 evaluation was conducted in the spring semester. The board received more than 1,800 responses and 118 comments from 87 anonymous responders. So that might be interesting for you to see that, you know, kind of what our numbers were. So we did have a board committee that's comprised of Richard Parker, who led that committee with Tim Carr and Justin Hubbs. And they examined then all the results. We were all able to see those, but for them to take some time and, you know, kind of look at that and to put together some results, some observations and recommendations and additional discussion than we had at our board retreat that we had in July. So the board's examination suggested that the employees recognize the board's focus last year on our advocacy, on community relationships, and on supporting extended campus sites, which also included the expansion of the Jefferson City site. The board recognized that streaming board meetings has improved access to the board meetings. We're always glad so many people are joining. But we also wanted to have kind of a report knowing, you know, how was that engagement going? Because we don't really know that. So that's something that we're looking forward to in a report so we can see how many are actually doing that. We also directed the president to develop strategies to communicate the board's roles to the employees. Through that, you know, we kind of saw where sometimes there were suggestions of things we should do. We want to make sure that we are doing our job as a board as defined by the policies. And then to develop a process for inviting board members to events. We've had some times where it was mentioned that we were not there. We want to make sure that if you want us to be there, that there is a process to have us. And of course, we all know that so many of the public events, we certainly are invited to. But if it would be a special event, we want to set up a process to do that. And then to consider a monthly student report of the Student Government Association. Being that we are student first at State Fair Community College, we want to know what are the students, you know, what are the students thinking, and that student report would help. So again, we want to thank all those who participated, the employees, the community members who took time to give input so that we can be an effective board. That is our goal, is to be an effective board. Any additions from those who were on the committee? Anything you want to add?
I think you covered it all.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your time in meeting that. Okay, so now we're down to Dr. B.
All right, I have a couple of things listed, a couple of things to add to the president's report because there's a ton of stuff going on right now. But at your place, we do have the new strategic plan placemats. And these placemats were distributed to the faculty and staff at the all staff meeting at the beginning of the semester. So this is just a simplified description of our strategic priorities and our focus areas for the upcoming year. And so you guys were involved in the development of this placemat, and we took into account your recommendations of others at the institution. And that's how we came to it. On the back of it are some definitions for that placemat and for the funds in the strategic plan. So it helps us to learn the language, talk the language, and have some direction. So thank you to Darcy Bale for her leadership and institutional effectiveness and creating this. Darcy, you want to add anything? I didn't ask you in advance if you wanted to do that, so not to put you on the spot. I shared this today with the foundation board at their annual meeting. It's very well received. I got several compliments from the community about how valuable it was to see this.
I guess I will say, I've seen them put up in a lot of offices and people are paying attention to them.
I think one of the things we like to do is put one up in a graphic here in the boardroom so we can keep our eye on one article for what we're doing. Dr. Porter gave the report on enrollment, a 5% increase. I should, so, you know, it's 5% increase, piece of cake, right? In credit hours. The last time we had a 5% increase in credit hours was 2011, State Fair Community College. And since then, we've had a decline, leveled out in recent years, but this is a significant move back up. So, you know, I do think that the improvements in the admissions process played a significant role in that increase, but there were many other things as well. It truly was a team effort, and I want to recognize our team in that enrollment increase. And we're going to still work on it. You can note in our focus areas, we have focus on enrollment. So Dr. Porter will be the team to develop a strategic enrollment management plan. So, you know, we can work towards sustaining those increases over the years. All right, so those are the two things listed. I have a couple of other things to add. Some are just announcements. Remind you in the calendar that the MCCA 59th Annual Convention and Trade Show is November 8th through the 10th in Kansas City. So it's really accessible. It's at the downtown Marriott. They're taking reservations now, so that's why I need to announce this to you all. If you're interested in going, please contact Lisa so she can make the convention reservations. There is an awards banquet on Wednesday night. So if there was just one night that you were to be there, Wednesday night would be a night to be there. We do have some folks that are up for awards internally. And I'm also proud to announce that one of the business and industry awards will go to one of the partners we just mentioned, Golden Valley Hospital. And so we've invited their leadership to be there to accept that award. So that's on Wednesday night of that.
What were the dates for it again?
November 8th through the 10th. All right. So this week we've had the start of class events. In our role to become a caring campus, we continue to have people out welcoming students. Our faculty and staff that were out front were wearing the t-shirts that I have. We got you all a t-shirt as well. So we're all identified. So students, you know, if they needed help, they knew who to go to for help. And so that initiative was really well received. We had, you know, I think almost all of our staff was involved in one way or the other, manning water booths outside. It was horribly hot. And we went through a lot of water. I don't, Mary, how many cases?
50 cases of water.
Okay, so we went through 50 cases as opposed to 16 in a normal year. I just heard a lot of good things from students. So I do want to appreciate our faculty and staff, express my appreciation to that. I also want to call out a couple of people in specifics. First of all, Shelley Gardner, who was Dr. Murder's administrative assistant. She did the deployment of all of this. She organized all of the activities and deployed those. So she worked really hard at that. So I want to say our appreciations to Shelley. And then there's someone else I want to recognize, and she always tells me, Brent, she doesn't say Brent, but like her too, but she says, you don't need to recognize me. I'm just doing my job. Well, Mary Troyer, and then she's given the roll in the eyes right now. Mary Troyer and her office mates, Megan Cannon and Irina Kazakov, they went above and beyond. And let me just describe a couple of things that they did. Mary gave a tour she walked along with some folks she knew that were interested in coming to school. She walked with them to make them feel comfortable. And when those potential students want to see the residence hall, and Mary saw some opportunity for us to put a better foot forward when we're showing off our residence hall. And so she volunteered to create some showcase rooms for the residence hall. And so she worked with some local partners, including Dugan's, anybody else? Sutherland's. And they outfitted room in the residence hall and a room in the apartments to be a showcase room for students, and it looks really sharp. So when she did that, then she thought, you know, the lobby of the residence hall does not look very good. It's not very inviting. So again, she started gathering up some community partners, some of the same that I just mentioned. And they have put new flooring, they're painting it, putting new flooring and some wall coverings in that space with new furniture, giving it a complete facelift in it. And it's going to be such a better environment for that. So then she thought, you know, while we're here, these students, we need something to welcome our students that are moving into this West Hall. So Mary, Megan, and Irina, they put together 250 welcome boxes for students. They got donation of the boxes from the, is it TLC? TLC is Shiner Marie, wife Marina, her business that does welcome boxes. They got those welcome boxes and put SFCC stuff in it. So she got donations from different departments and folks in the community, Walmart, McDonald's gift cards. Who else?
Sonic gift cards, we have McDonald's, we have Freddy's and pizza. Marketing, campus store, student services, Dom.
So every student that moved into the residence hall got a personalized box with their name on it.
The
With
banks
some,
all participated.
with stuff that Mary, so she and her team have been running around crazy, putting all those together. Plus, they supplied all of the welcome centers on campus. So Mary was up before sunrise every day, and she was out carrying water to these things and everything else. So that's above. It's not just. So I'm really proud of
Right,
you.
I do not like to be recognized. Say that it's not just one person, this campus works together very well, and that support comes across all that. So all departments helped do the welcome boxes. You know, it was a fun way to greet our students that were in the residence hall. And the whole thing was, they got it delivered to their spaces, they didn't have to carry them or anything.
So thank you, Mary. Couple of other things. Today we had, and you may have seen in the SFCC announcements, we had a special announcement today in Stoppaker. And so faculty and staff gathered there and we announced that we're in our accreditation process. Our mid-year report was submitted and we received the report from the Higher Learning Commission. And I'll just read the opening part of the letter. It says, this letter serves to inform you that State Fair Community College has successfully completed its open pathway assurance review with no recommended monitoring. So this is a really big deal. Last year, 50% of the institutions that went through this process had to do interim monitoring over some aspect. And so Darcy McPhail led that effort, and there were 75 faculty and staff involved in running, Patty included, and maybe some others on the board. And so it was a wonderful product, but it reflects the high quality that we have here. In fact, they called out some of the things in particular that we have policies and procedures to regulate and address various activities on campus. That's partly your role. Academic activities continue to be monitored, particularly with the assessment committee. And so they called that out. We have a strong strategic plan that we monitor, and we monitor the implementation of its goals. Our budget process, they highlighted our budget process. The college budget is grounded in fiduciary responsibility. There's many other outstanding activities, including positive rapport that the college has with the community, the availability of funds for faculty to pursue advanced degrees, partnerships with local healthcare industry that assess recruitment and retention, the DOM Escape program to introduce visual thinking strategies to elementary students, and the NC3 leadership program. So, high praise for our team on that. And lastly, Richard Parker, myself, Keith, and Andy, our director of facilities, we attended the Sedalia City Council meeting on Monday. And our board president, Patty Wood, and myself sent a letter to the city requesting that the city waive the building permit fees for our CAP project, our Center for Advanced Agriculture and Automotive Technology, our new residence hall, and the outdoor athletic fields. And, we pointed out the economic value, the economic development value of this, and the role that the college plays in the community, and also the great partnership that we've had with the city. And I'm pleased to announce that the city unanimously approved waiving those building permit fees. And so I wanted to recognize publicly to the board the appreciation to the city for that vote. And we look forward to working with them in other ways.
If anybody in the city is watching, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you abstain or did you vote?
I did abstain.
Dr. Bates, where can the public find this? If the public wanted to see what we're working on, or. Is there a
Is
place?
the placemat online yet, or?
Not placed online, but we- it's placed-
Or if you want copies, we'd be glad to give you copies if you hadn't.
I know, it would be great. I mean, it's just a one page, like, here's what we're about.
Yep. Well, before you leave, I have some copies in my office, so. That's my report.
All right, thank you. Lots going on. It was great to see though the campus looked like a real campus that had kids coming, I said the last few years, since 2020 has looked different, but today it's just buzzing with a lot of activity.
What about your gubernatorial visit?
Well, we did have, it was on Sunday, we had a wonderful opportunity to meet with the governor. We had several board members involved with that. Tom, Tim, Justin, and Patty were all there, and the governor brought his family over. And he had 2 security guards and his family. And we were able to talk about economic development and the role of community colleges in economic development, and tour the Olin Howard Center. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to talk with the governor, his wife, his son, and the daughter-in-law, and just, had a real, just like down-home discussion.
Personally, very personal.
Very personal. So, you guys have any observations on that, or?
Sure, I do. Would you like to hear it?
Sure, you brought it up.
It
so-
impressed the heck out of me. I mean, we started the tour and it's like you had conversation about each and every piece of equipment we had. The considerations had been put into the structure. At one point in time, you had made reference to a piece of machinery. And the governor's wife told me, he says, could have told us it means zeros. So you did impress several people, and I was very proud of the fact that you did a good job. And you look nice too, Patty.
I'm just in my beef house attire.
Just been short.
But yeah, they were all talking about they're going to wear it as I'm coming as a waitress. All righty. So we're ready for Keith, your financial report.
Well, everyone's waiting to hear my voice, Justin. Because, I got no response to my question here, so I'll give those to you.
It's fine.
That's fine. Financial report time. So we're 1 month into the budget. So there's basically one number on here, that I want to point out to you. That is a combination of two numbers, I guess. We talked about increased enrollment, and also some of the steps we took this year to be able to give the, increase in compensation to our employees. But if we look at the tuition fees revenue year to date for the first month, July 31, you'll see a dramatic increase from last year in FY 22. So the increase really is reflected in that. Also, on the far right, FY 20% realize that, see that number 4. I don't usually see that in July. It's usually at 3. So it means that, that also means we're probably a little bit ahead of budget. That's where we are. Other than that, when I say expense wise, don't only look at expenses until the first quarter, and then we'll see how it goes. Because the first couple of months are heavy cash outflows. We pay a lot of things up front the first couple of months, and they vary each year, kind of when they went out the door. So really, I'll let you know what we're looking at from a true expense standpoint in the first quarter. However, you'll see expenses are versus last year. And overall, for 1 month, the general expense revenue source expenditures is ahead of the last 2 years. So overall, the changes we've done, what we're doing seems to be doing what we hope for. And then our financials are strong as of 1 month. That's it. For the top numbers, the main. Ordered for the next area, the board reporting, the expenditures we made between 10 and 25,000 that were not previously approved by the board. Yeah, and then one other I want to show on here. We did buy a 26-inch ride-on floor scrubber because our other floor scrubbers weren't working anymore. So that one was 13.4. We knew that was coming up, so I had put it in the budget already for this year because we knew we were going to be needing it. We did buy it last year. Also with that, I can apply that to our 50/50 maintenance money to go back. So that was kind of pulled over to this year. Campus walkway repairs, finishing those up, but 185 for those. We're done for this season. We'll see what next season looks like, but I think we got a lot of the sidewalks repaired. The last one we did was the one over by Tech 2, which was one that was really needed, particularly with some of the folks right now. So not only for their stocking, they have an annual minimum maintenance contract to the warranty, so that is paid. Want to point out one that's a little over 25, and not one that is not bid out is what it is, because we paid our institution MCCA institutional dues, which is 28.6. Some advertising for 10.25, and then on Superior Lawn, we know the soft steels, but we don't do the lawn care, the fertilizer, the pesticide, insecticide, irrigation, all those things to it. So this was basically coming in summer and do all those things, and that was up to 10.25 Superior Laws. That's those. Report.
All right, Dr. Bates, a resolution for the disclosure of conflict of interest policy.
State law requires every other year for us to approve a resolution disclosing our ethics policy. And so the state does provide a template for this disclosure of conflicts of interest. And so this is exactly modeled after the template recommended by the state. And so this has to be approved by the board by September 15th. And so it has to be signed by the board president.
Okay, so I would accept a motion to accept.
Second.
Any questions? Maybe in looking it over. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, now we're down to board discussion. Do we have anything?
Wyman's Honor Ball is November sixth. And out with that date today. I don't know if the college normally attends that in the past. But it does have a branch on the base. Might be beneficial. But yeah, it's an amazing event. The main focus of that is, of course, a little bit of recognition of the base, but it's their home for the holidays event where they surprise, could be 10, could be 20 airmen who may not have the opportunity to go home for the holidays with that chance. There's a nice dinner, there's a nice auction as well. And I know several organizations, several municipalities, they all attend that UCM. So it would be, yeah, it's an amazing event. Might be a good opportunity for us to attend.
I also meant to mention the Classic Country Jamboree. There's a flyer for that. It's on the calendar, I believe. It's a great event, benefits State Fair Community College. So I would encourage you to go to that event. And also there's mouse races, athletic department fundraisers, so you can sponsor a mouse on September 30th. I guess it's really fun. I didn't go last year, but I heard it's a lot of fun. I plan to go this year. Yep. And there is also a fundraiser in the community sponsored by Central Bank. And it's a blood drive, and the organization that gets the most donations, number of people donating, gets a prize. And what is that prize, Mary? 2,000?
Yeah.
It's okay. Cash. Yeah. First place is 2,500. Second is 1,250. And down. We've won first and second. So if you would like to donate blood, you can make an appointment by scanning this, and you would be counted for State Fair Community College. We'd like to do that.
I recently found out after getting my blood drawn that I might have a slight fear of needles.
So anybody wants to go with Tom and hold his hand?
Here.
It was rough. I tensed up and a whole arm went purple the next day, and it was yeah. I drew blood off my wife's arm, holding on to her, so.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch. I felt it go in and stay in for what seemed to be an hour, so.
But today, several of us attended the foundation meeting. So always appreciate all that our foundation does and the good reports that we heard. We got all of us got that in the email as far as the numbers. So thank you, Mary, and your team for a great meeting today. The only thing I might have put is that I noticed we don't have on our calendar December the 10th. Is that when we have graduation? No, 15th. So, we're gonna have a spring and a winter. So we might want to put that on our calendars to make sure that we secure that date. And it's at 7 o'clock. Right? It will be at 7. So just note that. And of course, you've got lots of things in upcoming events. So be sure to get those on your calendars. So the next board meeting, general session will be on September 28th at 5:30 here in the boardroom. And we'll have no other items on the agenda after we, we'll go into closed session. We come out, we will adjourn. But I do entertain a request to go into closed session for hiring, firing, disciplining, or promotion of personnel pursuant to RSMO section 610.0213.
Second.
Roll call, please. Amy Bashir, yes. Tim Carr,
Yes.
Justin Huff,
Yes.
Tom Oldham.
Yes.
Richard Parker.
Absent.
Patricia Wood.
Yes.
That's the Scott and Keith state.
All right, thank you all. Maybe tomorrow will be a cooler day.
One more hot day.
One more hot